Hey YouTube, hey subscribers, how's it going? Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you all so much for how engaged you've been with the channel already. Really rich, deep discussions in the comment sections of some of the videos. Eye-opening for me, and I hope that the things I've been writing back to you guys have been healing to you as well. So in one of those discussions, one of my subscribers mentioned narcissism as the hidden demon that wreaks havoc on lives. And it struck me so much that I said I was going to do a video on it, and I am. It's so true. The reason that narcissism is such a problem is because it's invisible. You can't see it. So we all know that there's many different types of abuse. There's physical abuse where you're being hit, struck, beaten, things of that nature. That's very, very obvious. There's sexual abuse where you're being violated in a sexual way. While that's not quite as obvious, it can still be proven to some extent. Yeah, there's some out there that will never be able to be proven, but to some degree, it's a real thing. Okay, you can kind of point at it in a way. There's emotional abuse, which is very, very close to narcissism, but it kind of has its own lane. It has its own category where someone just belittles you, demeans you, plays with your emotions, and really emotional abuse and narcissism are kind of kissing cousins, but it still has its own lane. The problem with narcissism is that it's so hard to describe, and it's so hard to put your finger on, and there's so much misinformation out there about narcissism. So I did a simple Google search of the definition just to see what's the first thing that would pop out to a person if they were just now discovering this and wanted to learn more. And here's the definition on Google, the very first definition that pops up for narcissism. Noun, excessive or erotic interest in oneself and one's physical appearance. Synonyms, vanity, self-love, self-admiration, self-absorption, self-obsession, conceit, self-centeredness, self-regard, egotism, egoism. Psychology, extreme selfishness with a grandiose view of one's own talents and a craving for admiration as characterizing a personality type. Psychoanalysis, self-centeredness arising from failure to distinguish the self from external objects, either in very young babies or as a feature of mental disorder. Guys, that doesn't even scratch the surface of what narcissism really is. This is almost borderline incorrect. This is almost borderline just completely 100% false. I think this is what people think that it is, and that's why this is the definition. But this nowhere even comes close to scratching the surface of what this really is. And, when people come and they read this, they're like, oh, okay. Someone who's vain, they're really obsessed with themselves, they're kind of selfish. And then if you read this one, arising from failure to distinguish the self from external objects, either in very young babies or as a feature of mental disorder. I mean, what does that even mean? Did the person who wrote that really believe in that? When you wrote that, you didn't believe in that, because that means nothing to the average person. That means nothing. Honestly, in my opinion, narcissism needs to be renamed, but nobody knows what to call it. What do you call a person who has nothing inside, who's completely empty? Narcissists have a lane all on their own. And the problem is, because nobody knows what to call it, it goes hidden under names like, oh, he's a jerk, he's an asshole, she's a bitch, she's a C word, oh, she's crazy. And people just kind of write it off. And because they write it off, that's why it thrives. It goes beyond just a jerk boss. I believe you can have a jerk who's also not a narcissist. I really do believe that. I believe that the difference would be a jerk really isn't seeking to win anything. The jerk isn't seeking to destroy you as a person. That's where the narcissist part comes in. The narcissist takes great pleasure in your destruction. I think the jerk that cut you off on the highway, they cut you off They're assholes. They'll move on with life, you know, but they're not sitting there going, yeah, I destroyed that person. I played with their mind to the point where they didn't know what was true and what was real. You know what I mean? Like, they don't take pleasure in the manipulation. They don't have time. Most jerks are very impatient. They don't have time to sit here and plot out an elaborate manipulation on someone else. Okay? They just don't. So I really believe there's categories. And the problem with narcissism is no one really talks about it, you know, well, except on YouTube. But in common society, I never hear it brought up, ever. In social circles, when I go on social media, I rarely hear narcissism brought up. And when I do, it's these definitions that I pulled here from Google. So that's part of the problem and one of the main reasons that I launched this channel, because I want to give as many descriptions, as many examples, as many different words to describe this that I can to the people that listen, so they'll be able to describe it. They'll come up with their own examples, their own words, and somehow in this big discussion that we're having about it, we're going to nail it down and expose it, because it has to be exposed in order for it to stop. I don't think these narcissists will ever stop operating the way that they do, but my goal with this channel is to make it to where it works on hardly anyone that they come across. So in other words, people will become so aware that they'll know a narcissist as soon as they meet them, and the narcissist won't be able to feed off of them. So really, my goal for this channel is to starve them to death. My goal is to wake up so many people and make them realize what they've been going through and help them put words to it and help give it a name for them, that narcissists won't have such an easy time operating. I did another video called "You Must Believe in the Boogeyman, How a Narcissist Grows," because these people are so sick. They know that most of society does not believe that they exist. Most of society don't believe that these hollow men and hollow women are walking around out here. It's almost like we've been invaded by some malicious alien race who just puts on like a human skin, and they do human things, and they came to the world in a human way, but they're not real people. It's almost like they're imposters. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's almost, that's how crazy narcissism is. You have to try to like wrap your head around what's going on here. But it really is, to me, invasion of the body snatchers. Like, somebody took these people's soul out of them, and they're hollow shells, and they function fully. They have jobs. They appear to be normal. The only thing that's missing is their humanity. It's completely gone. It's crazy. Like, those of you who've been through it, you know what I'm talking about. You just sit there and ask yourself all the time, how can a person do this? How could a person do this to somebody that they love? How could someone do this to someone that they say they care about, or someone they call a friend or a family member? How could they do that? Like, how could you bring yourself to do that? Here's another word that I want to throw out there to help describe this hidden demon we call narcissism. Narcissism is very insidious. INSIDIOUS. Insidious means proceeding in a gradual, subtle way, but with harmful effects. Okay? And here are some of the synonyms: stealthy, subtle, surreptitious, cunning, crafty, treacherous, artful, sly, wily, shifty, underhanded, indirect, sneaky. That sounds like narcissist to me, doesn't it? Everything right there sounds exactly like what a narcissist is and what they do. Like, the scary thing about these people is that they plot on you, and they can be narcissistically wounded in your presence, or by something you do or didn't do. They might be wounded by who you are, and they'll pretend very well, with almost 100% accuracy, that they like you. But in the back of their mind, they're just plotting some way to set you up to make you fail. That is very, very, very scary, because some of these narcissists you guys are married to, they're your roommates, they're your brother, your sister, your parents. Sometimes it's a child. These people are deeply, deeply involved in our lives. And just to know that in the back of their minds, they're plotting this and some of them, you know, execute on their plans and they're successful, and that they get off on that. That's what makes them a narcissist as opposed to a jerk. Yeah, narcissism, it's the hidden demon. It operates in the shadows, toys with just the innermost workings of a human's mind. And what's sad is if these people used, I guess it's not really a gift, it's kind of a curse. But if narcissism was a gift, this is what it would look like. If narcissism was a gift, these people would be master psychologists. They would be able to diagnose, not necessarily disorders, they would be able to tell a person, let me rephrase that. They wouldn't be master psychologists, they'd be master life coaches. They would be able to tell a person exactly what they're doing wrong, what they need to fix to get the results that they want. They would be able to tell a person, you know, why they're not as well received as they would like to be. They would be able to tell a person how to get a job for an interview. They would be able to really coach people because they understand, they overstand people. They understand people so well that they're able to use their knowledge, but they choose to use it for evil. That's narcissism, the hidden demon. You know, learn as much as you can about it. Read books. I do plan on doing videos that review some of my favorite books that I've read about this subject, and just kind of what I took from those. But read absolutely everything you can and explore this issue, because the more you learn, the more the knot unties. My knot unties a little bit more each day. I hope yours does as well. I hope that as you're listening to these videos, every now and then you just have to pause and think and talk to yourself, or whoever is willing to listen, and just kind of reflect as the knot unties. So let that process happen. I thank you all so much for tuning in. Definitely going to put some more videos out this weekend. Take care and have a happy and safe 4th of July.